All right, good morning. Stream number 2, Monday the 8th of December. Big week, and next week as well. 2 more weeks to my Christmas break. Really want to finish this year strong. I wasn't going to start streaming until January, but I thought, why the hell not just start early? That's sort of been my motto for just about everything this year. So far it's paid off. Hopefully we can finish it strong. So here's the DAX. This is Friday. It was quite a nice positive day until about 3:30 where we sold off, and we're currently sat about halfway between Friday's high and low. We've built up some decent support over the last few hours. We're currently above where we closed yesterday, but we are within the overnight range, which means we have very, very little bias. This Wednesday night, we have the US Fed interest rate decision, which is always one of the biggest events of the quarter. So that doesn't mean we won't make any big moves between now and Wednesday night, but it does mean that there's likely to be slightly less volatility, as there'll be a lot of people just sat on the sidelines waiting to find out what the Fed decision is. But my job isn't to worry about that. I've just got to worry about what's directly in front of me. So we had a good start on Friday. A good couple of wins to start off the channel. I want to go through the last few days. There's a little bit of a warm-up exercise. So yeah, let's scroll back. Let's do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I didn't trade Wednesday or Thursday, so I don't really know exactly how I just traded it, but let's go through it. So first of all, we need to draw our overnight range for Wednesday. Oh, hang on, I've gone too far. Wednesday, here we go. So this is pretty much what I do every morning to start off. So I've already done it for today. But I also like to go back through a couple of the previous days, just because you often forget what happened last week. So it's almost like you're looking at it for the first time. It's good to just sharpen your mind. So we had a high here, we had a low here. So let's just bear that in mind. So here we go. On the right hand side, we've got the 1 minute chart. This was quite a range bound morning, not a terrible morning to miss. So the market opened here and we opened up. So from this week, well, from today, I'm not going to be making any trades until about 8:15. I want to really avoid that first 10-15 minutes. I want to see some sort of direction form. And it's really hard to say exactly where I'd have entered trades, because if you watched last Friday, you would have seen how important it is to actually see the live movements of the market. But it is still good revision. So we moved up, we tested here. You see a test of that Tuesday high, but then it proved strong, and then we pushed up. So I think here potentially could have been a trade, because we had a breakout, a retest of the previous day high and some strength. I'm not saying I would have definitely done that, but that would have been a valid entry there. We would have either taken some profit here and done quite well, or we would have left it and we'd have been stopped out for break even. But either way, that would have been a valid entry. We then move down and we test the overnight range. There's quite a lot of noise down here. It's not particularly clean price action, but we would definitely still be long biased. So I think really we'd want to see a retest. So some sort of long position down here would be a decent idea. Again, hard to say exactly when I would have entered. I may have entered here, may have entered here, may have entered here. Any of them would have been okay. We would have been left to wait quite a while, though. It wouldn't have been a particularly fun morning. Every morning could be profitable. Every single morning could be unprofitable. It really purely depends on your in the moment decision making. And even looking back at the chart when it's fully formed, you are still, sort of speculating what you would do in the moment. I think I spent too much of my time earlier this year looking at past charts, thinking that past charts, looking at what we just did there, would actually help with my live trading, but it doesn't really help that much. It helps you to learn about price action and how candlesticks behave, but it doesn't help a whole lot with actually making money, and that's ultimately what we're here for. So the market's opened. This is live now. So we've got a couple of interesting levels to watch for the first 10-15 minutes. We've got previous day close down here, the previous day point of control. So this is the level yesterday, or sort of Friday, where we had the most volume, so the most transactions, and the market often responds to this level. I mean, you can see immediately how it's responded to that level here. But yeah, no trades at least till 8:15 or around there, and no trades until 8:30 if we're within the overnight range. So right now we're stuck within this blue box. So if it stays here for the next half an hour, we won't be making any executions, because essentially I want to trade outside of this range, ideally, and I want to give it as much time as possible to break out. But if it does look like we're in a trading range for the morning, we do have a system, a model to trade it. I've just not traded it as much, because more often than not, we tend to leave the overnight range. So, currently I'm most confident trading breakouts rather than ranges, but that's fine. So each morning I wanted to go through some sort of education to try and catch people up in terms of what I do and how I do it. So this morning I want to talk about what it is I actually trade, which is the DAX index. So if I actually pull up here, the DAX itself. So I, as a retail trader, cannot actually trade directly on the index. So this is the DAX here itself. This is what it looks like. And this is essentially an instrument which tracks the price of 40 of the biggest German companies. The actual specifics of what companies are in it, for my own purposes, are completely irrelevant. But I trade something called futures, or CFDs, which is a separate instrument which tracks the DAX. So the price might not be exactly the same, but it will be almost the same. And as the DAX moves, the futures move. Futures, which I trade, are open almost 24 hours a day, where the DAX is only open when the exchange is open, which is for Europe, it's 8 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. And that's why I only trade after 8 a.m. So I could trade before 8 a.m., but that's called the pre-market. And there's very little volatility, very little participation before 8 o'clock. So I trade after 8 o'clock, because that's when the index itself actually opens, the stock exchange opens. And that's how I find my trades, because I'm not sure exactly how much more volatility, but multiples I don't know, 5, 10 times more volatility after 8 o'clock than pre 8 o'clock. I don't actually have Pepperstone as my broker because I don't trade through TradingView. So I'm trading. One moment. So I'm trading through here, TD365, which also offers the same product. It's just a different broker. It's all quite abstract. It's all quite weird. I'm not going to act like I completely understand how all of it works, which is the funny thing, really, because people have entire careers trading something that they don't fully understand, but they do understand how to make money from it. For my purposes, I don't need to understand all the intricacies of exactly what companies are in it and who's trading it and all that sort of thing. All I need to know is how can I make money? And I think I'm certainly getting to grips with that now. So here's the price is certainly doing some interesting stuff. So we've sold off below the overnight range. And there's buyers now coming in trying to push it back up. This is certainly an interesting start to the morning. The average true range down here, which we did talk about on Friday, which is the average price movement per bar, it is extremely low at the moment. Really, we want it above 10. It is normally above 10. Sometimes it gets up all the way towards 20. 7's pretty low. This affects the size of our stop loss. So I'll generally trade with a stop loss around twice, 1.5 to 2.5 times the size of the average true range. Price movements within the average true range, so within about 7.5 point span, is sort of irrelevant. So what you're looking for movements sort of twice the average true range, as that's actually significant movement. Anything smaller than that is sort of just noise. So we've sold off below. Buyers have tried to push it higher, and then sellers have really come in just within that 1 minute candle. But I certainly don't want to trade it yet. This is why I don't trade until about 8:15, because if this was happening at 9 o'clock, I'd have probably been short down here. But there's really a battle going on off the open with a lot of participants, and we're waiting for the first key battle to be won by either the buyers or the sellers. And so far, that battle is not being won by anyone. Because just within a couple of minutes here, you've had strong selling, strong buying, and selling within the same candle, and then buyers coming in again. So for me, trying to trade this would be pretty hopeless with my system. Why is it not saying I'm live? Oh man, am I live? Hope I'm live. Oh god damn it. I am live. It's weird, my phone, YouTube on my phone is saying that I'm not live right now. I think I'm just going to ignore that and hope that my laptop. Yeah, I'm live. There's not a lot I can do about it. I think and I hope that I am. Okay, so now it's getting interesting because sellers are once again coming in. It's sort of the idea that once you sort of bang your head against a wall so many times, either the wall's going to win and you're going to get knocked out, or you're going to break through the wall. So once the price has hit a wall a certain number of times, either it's going to fail and it's going to reverse, or the wall's going to break. And that's sort of the idea of this overnight range, is it can act like a bit of a wall until it breaks. When it breaks, it can really break. Okay, so we are really looking now like it's very likely to go down. Here we go. This is our breakout. We are now looking for a retest, then go long. So we'd be long around 24,000 stop loss. Okay. So we've got our breakout. We've got our breakout. We're now just looking for a test before we can then go and enter. I'm going to move over here so you can actually see my entry. Should I enter? Okay, so here's our retest. Now we just need sellers to come back. I'm going to stay over here, but once I've entered the trade, I will come back. We just need to see sellers come back again and take control. And then that will be our breakout retest complete. Although for the moment, the buyers are doing okay. So I'm glad I didn't enter prematurely. This is why we wait for a retest. Because I mean this candle here was extremely bearish. Extremely bearish. But look what's happened. If I'd have gone short here, well, I'd have already been stopped out for a full loss. And a full loss is around 160. It does slightly depend on my trading size, but it'll be maximum 160. Okay, well that to me, that is as good as a win. Not losing there, not entering and not losing is just about as good to me as making money. Because the amount of times in the past, maybe even up to last week, where I would have gone short and gotten stopped out, that is, yeah, that's quite nice. Obviously, if you're watching this, you won't see all my history, all those losses, but I've lost from this sort of situation many, many times. So we're coming back down again. Um, okay. This is very, very interesting. We've sort of tested VWAP here, sort of. We've not quite, but very close. This could be our entry right now. This could be our entry coming up. Ooh. I'll be patient. Just want to be really patient there. So we are below the overnight range right now, but the market's currently holding itself up pretty damn well. Again, we could have gone short. Could have gone short here. We didn't. We didn't. Why? Hard to even tell you. If I was looking up to here and the chart was still, it was just a stationary chart, I'd have gone short on the close of this candle. I would have. If you look at the 5 minutes now very interesting because we've got VWAP right above, we've got prior bar high. Prior bar high is the idea of sellers coming in above the high of the previous bar. And there's also prior bar low, where buyers come in below the low of the previous bar. So we're currently at a prior bar high, which is quite a key level because are there lots of buyers ready to buy the market or are there loads of sellers? Looks like there's a load of buyers. Oh man, again, I've sort of saved myself 2 losses here just through having a system that looks for extra confirmation because I could have been short here, no problem. I could have been definitely short here. Could have definitely been short there. And this is another reason why I tend to, well, why I'm trying to become incredibly cautious in the first half an hour because breakouts are just less reliable. So all of a sudden, within seconds, we've looked from going down, down, down to test the prior day low to suddenly now we're looking at maybe rallying up, which is, I mean, this is the fun of day trading. Is you cannot get a fixed bias. You just can't because if you do, you're almost likely to get screwed. Okay, so this to me is this is a strong sign. The fact that we've actually been able to basically chill out down here below the overnight range, and there's not been enough selling to push it down. And then we sort of snapped back like an elastic band is quite interesting. So we're now right back exactly where we opened on the morning. Quite possible that sellers could come in again, which they are trying. So my system to trading ranges when we do sit in here for the morning is called mean reversion. So essentially where you're betting on the market getting to a point of overextension, which would be down here, and then you're expecting it to snap back to the mean price, which could be the open price, it could be the volume weighted average price, but you're looking for it to revert back to some sort of mean value. So it's basically the opposite. It's the complete opposite of a breakout retest. You're looking for a breakout, and you're looking for a fail. So you could have, if you really, really wanted to bet on a range, you could have this morning. You see a breakout, you see it snap back, you see a retest trying to break again, and then you see it fail for a second time. And then you would buy on the second failure, if you like. But this morning, I was nowhere near confident enough because it was just too early on in the day, too early on to bet on a failed breakout. I don't use that strategy until after 8:30 because looking back previous days, it's too unreliable. Too unreliable. My best trades tend to come somewhere between around 8:35 to about 9:15, somewhere in that period when there's still a lot of volatility, but not too much. Um, well, a lot of volatility, but clearer trends. Then after around 9:30, volatility tends to start dying down. Not always, but it does tend to start dying down. So decreased volatility just means less opportunity for a day trader. So we're looking now to make new highs for the morning. So a new high here is interesting, but really we still need it to break out of the blue box. It's got to break the overnight range for it to really get interesting. Because you'll see once we break above this blue box, we got some room to run. We got some room to run. So that's currently, like, if we're going to make a trade this morning, that's currently the most likely scenario. Oh, okay. This is getting more interesting now. Okay, now I am going to try to change screen. One moment. Okay, great. So now if I enter a trade, you'll actually see me input it. So I am still looking at TradingView. I'm just looking at it on my laptop screen, and you're seeing my monitor. Okay, so we've officially broken the overnight range. The only problem with you watching this is that you can no longer see all the stuff that I've got written down, but that's fine. We have made a breakout. We've made a breakout. We now want some sort of retest. Okay, so we're pulling back slightly. I'm not entirely sure where I put my stop loss yet. I think I'm gonna let the market go. I'm gonna let it go for a bit. I want to have some idea of where I'm going to place my stop loss. Because at the moment there's just green, 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 green. So there's no real place of protection. I want to see the market protect a certain price, and then you put your stop loss below that price. Because at some point it's going to come down. It's not just going to do this forever. That's another thing that I've learned through experience is, if you want to be long, the more green you see, the less you actually want to the less you actually want to enter immediately. You actually don't want to see a shitload of green, because if all you see is green, it's just a matter of time until you see red. So if I'm buying on the 10th consecutive green candle, the probability of the next one of the next candles being a big red candle is pretty high. So what I really want to see is loads of green, a little bit of red, and then green again, and that's when I buy. Now, that does mean potentially you could just completely miss the move, because there will be a handful of times a year, moves that are just so strong with so much momentum that you just don't get red. But you have to accept missing that. But it looks like today is not going to be that day. So we've got a prior bar low. We are literally right here, right. This is the top of the overnight range. Right now, you can't see it, but it is, I promise. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're actually quite firmly now back in the range. So now we've broken below, snapped back, and now we've pushed above and again snapped back. So now we're testing the high of the open candle here. It's also 8:25, which means in 5 minutes we're gonna get school run. Now, school run is a strategy from Tom Hugard, which looks at the 15-minute chart. So this is a 15-minute chart right now. Oh, no, it's not. 15-minute chart. And the second 15-minute candle, which is the present candle, you would want to go long above, and generally you'd want to go short below. However, there is a bit of a caveat to that, where if you are within the overnight range, you do the opposite. So today, the low of this candle is within the overnight range, so you'd actually want to go long below. But then the top is above the overnight range, so you'd also want to go long. That is pretty much all I did the first 9 months of this year. And I've only been trading my current system since towards the end of October. So really not very long. I'm on like I think week 7 or 8 of trading this way. So once again, my decision to not buy was a good one. A very good one. So at some point earlier this year, I would by now have lost at least once down here, at least once, and I would have lost up here. So this is, by the standards of the year so far, this has been a very tricky morning so far, because it's been a morning full of traps, full of traps. I'm also completely comfortable now with sitting here for another 45 minutes, not doing anything, not doing anything at all. Where earlier in the year, by earlier in the year, I just mean like a week or two ago, because that's how quickly this stuff is developing. I just would not, it wouldn't have been able to sit here. I'd have had to have done something at some point. Okay, you won't know, but we've actually just tested here and bounced off the VWAP. Now I can actually, I think I can put it on here. Let me see if I can get it on here as well. Yes, I can. This is the anchored VWAP, which is what we talked about on Friday. So this is a moving average weighted more heavily at price levels where there's more volume and more transactions, which is a key sort of psychological area, because the majority of traders use this. And this is also the previous day close. I think Tom's also got something on there. Yes, he does. Brilliant. So everything I'm doing right now is all Tom Hugard's software. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without him giving it away for free. So we've tested VWAP, held for the moment, testing the previous day close. Now, this is called confluence. When you have two key levels, so V and the previous day close, both sort of converging at the same price point. Um, and it often does prove to be quite significant. However, it is slap bang in the middle of the overnight range, right literally in the middle of the overnight range. So that is not at all a price that I made this morning. If this here was happening up here, I would have gone long here. I would have gone long. But as we're in the middle of the overnight range with 1 minute till we get the school run bar, I'm not going to trade it. The 5-minute chart is starting to look quite interesting. I'll show you that as well. This is the 5-minute chart. So we've got an attempt to push lower, failed, closing back within, strong green, a real sell-off back to VWAP, but then an immediate continuation of buying. And we're now, again, back right to the top of the overnight range. So we've also got school run now, which you'll see these signals here, um, which has been coded into the software to tell you. So here you can see it. So this line here is long. Oh, man, you can see why I don't use this for analysis. It's a bit clunky. When you go here, you'd go short here. Okay. So we're definitely getting close. We're definitely getting to the point where, okay, I'm gonna want to trade. I see now essentially twice this morning, we've really made some key support here and some key support. Guess what level we got to here when we started selling off again? This is again exactly the top of the overnight range. Oh, exactly, literally. So if I was a trader, and I wasn't aware of this concept of the overnight range, I wasn't aware of the concept of VWAP, I wasn't aware of all these different things, I would be at a disadvantage, and that's where I was, a few months ago. And in a few months' time, I'm going to have a whole load more things, levels, averages, indicators that's going to help me get more insight into what's going on. So once again, we've got to the top of the overnight range. We've sold off. So this is where you could start to see the market as just being range bound, and you could start to look for mean reversions. So I could decide, okay, next time we get to a place of real extension or overextension, the next time we come up here or down here, we're going to look for an opportunity to either go long back up into the range or short back down into the range. But I'd like to give the market more time to break out, because what I have done in the past, what is really annoying, you sit here for an hour waiting for a breakout, you don't get one, so you decide to trade the opposite, and then you enter a trade to mean revert, and then it breaks out. Then that is really heartbreaking because you're just kicking yourself. Because if you just stuck to your original plan, you would have made money, maybe quite a lot of money. So we're down here once again, testing previous day close. Uh, Now we have this concept that we discussed earlier of how many times can you bang your head against a wall or the wall win? We hit the wall here, we held it. We hit the wall here, we held it. Every time we hit the wall, we're less likely to, it's more likely the wall, and that is what I would expect here, and that is like what we're now below the previous day close. If the market does come back up now strongly, then that's quite a strong indication from the market, because I think now there's bigger chance of it coming down here than it is of it coming back up here. But when the market defies that probability, you want to make note. because it's often significant. It's trying to come back. It's trying to come back. I mean, we opened here, and we're right where we opened. So the net movement this morning is 0. And, 35 minutes in, I still have absolutely no bias as to whether I wanna be long or short. I must say it's rare. It's rare. More often than not by now, I've made a trade or I certainly know where I'd want to make a trade. I'm just gonna switch screens again, I think. Okay, there you go. Oh, it's a bit nicer to look at. As well. So on the left-hand side, you've got this 5-minute chart, which, tells the story. We sell off, fail, we buy, we fail, and we bought again here, we fail, and now we're trying for a third time to break out. But you'll also see that the ranges of these movements is getting smaller and smaller. The distance from here, I get a ruler, I think. Oh, man. It's different on this new laptop. It's not where it used to be. No. Anyway, but the distance from the low to the high here is about 80 points. The distance from the high to the low here is about 50 points, and then the low to the high here is 30 points, and then the high to the low here is 20 points. So the ranges are getting smaller, smaller. The market is getting more and more heavily into consolidation. So I'm essentially getting further and further away from actually placing a trade. And given that we've got the Fed decision on Wednesday night, this isn't overly shocking. If there's going to be a week, there's going to be a week where we get a lot of this. This is the week. So on the left hand side here, we've got the 15-minute chart. So this green bar here is the school run bar. It would get interesting up here, and it would get interesting down here. But while we're in between, there's nothing to do. Okay, we're coming up again. We're coming up again. So, I mean, this is where it gets tricky because I could be like, okay, I'm going to bet on the market not breaking out, and I do a mean reversion, but I just don't, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. I think I'd only do a mean reversion if we break the high of the day completely, but then we immediately come back. If we come back in strong, then I'd look to short. But I'm still hopeful that we get a breakout, and this could be it right now. This could be it right now. what you're seeing here is called a volume profile, and these dotted lines, the range between the dotted lines is where 70% of the morning's volume is taking place. So what I'm quite keen on seeing is a breakout and then a test at this level. And once again, you've got confluence because you've got the value area high, this dotted line, being at the same level as the overnight range. Yeah, and that to me is interesting. So once again, to the top of the overnight range, people are trying to sell. Another thing I'm looking at here is this 5-minute candle. This 5-minute candle's very strong. We've closed above the highs of prior two candles. This is the highest close that we've had of the entire morning. So there's a breakout this morning. I'd expect it to come in the next 5-10 minutes. If we sell all the way back off again, I might be best off just going and chilling out and doing something else. Okay, okay, this is starting to look interesting again. So I'm once again just going to change screens. Oh, as soon as I say that, we sell back off again. So what I was hoping it was sort of a micro consolidation, at the highs. When we consolidate at the highs, that's a very good sign because it means there's volume and participants accumulating. And when they accumulate away from the mean, that often means you're going to get an explosion higher. That has not happened. Has not happened. Back down. It's funny because we're in a range. We're in a range here this morning, but we're also within Friday's range. So we're really within a range within a range. Because we could break out long above the overnight range here and still be within Friday's range. So the market really is contracting. I also don't think it's insignificant that we're doing it around this 24,000 price level because big round numbers like that often tend to be significant. We've got 45 seconds left of the third 15-minute candle, and it's currently what's called a doji candle, which is where the body of the candle is pretty much non-existent. It's just all wick. That's called a doji. Um, each different sort of candle shape has its own name. dojis like what we've got currently are seen as indecision candles, meaning within a time period, the price has tried to move up, it's failed, it's tried to move down, and it's failed. So another thing that I'm looking at here is the fact that we've got higher lows, meaning we've got a low here, subsequent lows are higher, and now this potentially could be another low, which is a higher low than the previous, which is bullish, which is bullish. It's very, very mildly bullish. Not something I'd base a trade on, but it's worth taking note. How long am I going to wait this morning? That sort of depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll just have called it by now. Sometimes I will tend to wait for the first hour. I'll tend to wait until after 9 o'clock. There's often some action around 9 o'clock. If we're still doing this at 9:15, it feels like a waste of time to sit here any longer. You've also got to be careful that I don't sit here so long that I start seeing stuff that isn't there, because I want to do something. I want to trade. I've spent the weekend thinking about Monday. You get to Monday and then bugger all happens. Sometimes it's hard to accept that. You want to release whatever excitement or anxiety that's within you as a trader, but that will often result in a loss. So we are really consolidating at the moment, right around where we opened this morning. We are above VWAP, and we've held VWAP a couple of times. But I'm just seeing no momentum in either direction. I actually don't remember the last morning I didn't make a trade when I was sat here. I don't think there's been a single morning since I went up to a 10K account, which was back on the 20th of October. I don't think there's been a single session since the 20th of October where I didn't make a trade. That's partly because there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of volatility, largely due to the fear around an AI bubble, and also partly because there's been warnings like this where I shouldn't have traded, but I did. But more than anything, it's been because there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of volatility, and there's also been a lot of uncertainty about what Fed will do. But now it appears that there's like a 90% chance of a rate cut, which means it's not certain, but it's highly likely. And when the probability is that high, the market's generally already priced it in. So the market's probably already accounted for a rate cut by now. So unless there's some sort of highly unlikely shock decision on Wednesday, the market has probably already done what it's going to do. If it was still at like a 30% chance or a 50% chance of rate cut, chances are this morning would be much more volatile because there'd be a lot more panic and uncertainty. But I think the general expectation is if we cut rates, which we are going to cut rates now, we're likely to have a cautiously bullish end to the year. And these are the US markets that I'm talking about. But if the US markets are bullish, then so are the European markets, unless there's some sort of turmoil going on in Europe. So we're back down again at these lows we've tested, now making lower lows. So now we are coming back down to test the low of the morning. Now this is where you've got a decision to make. Do I do a breakout retest or do I look for mean reversion? And this is definitely a flaw in my trading strategy. I don't want that uncertainty. I'd like to be able to say, this is what I'm looking for, and that's it. Um, but that's sort of one of the things that I'm going to try to get sorted in the next couple of months is deciding on whether I even consider trading mean reversions or if I'm just purely a breakout trader. Um, for the sake of that sort of mental clarity. Okay, we've just come and tried to test Friday's close. Let's see if we get any sort of reaction here. Okay. Oh man. I think we'll just do 9:15. 9:15 is going to be my cut-off. From a risk management and account growth point of view, all that matters today is that I don't lose money because this is currently not a morning where I'm going to make a lot, but it is a morning that you could lose a lot, as we've already discussed. There's been plenty of traps, plenty of places where I could have entered and justified it as following my rules. So far, I would have lost every single entry. There's probably been 3 or 4 valid trade ideas this morning, all of which would have lost, which is so you could argue that I'm actually up this morning. I am up this morning relative to how I would have performed for pretty much the entire rest of this year, because this system provides no shortage of opportunities throughout the week. As I said, this is the first day. If I don't trade this morning, it would be the first day since before the 20th of October that I haven't traded. So there is no shortage of trade opportunities. Plenty of chances to make money. So this sort of morning, just don't lose it. 'Cause my target double my to double my account every year I need essentially 2 more winners per week than losers. 2 more winners than losers per week, you know? So if I have 4 winners, I need to have no more than 2 losers. But the less losers I have, the less winners I need. If I only lose 1, I need 3 winners, and that's assuming that my winner is only a 1-hour trade. If my winner's a 2-hour trade, then that counts for 2. If it's a 3-hour trade, it counts for 3, which I get plenty of. I get plenty of 2 to 3-hour trades throughout the month. There'll be a handful of 2 to 3-hour trades. So the maths of growing this account isn't overly exciting, riveting, but it's really simple, really goddamn simple. If I lose today through a poor entry, I've then got to find an extra winner throughout the week to preserve that profit target. And so far, since the 20th of October, I have beaten my target every single week. So before I started streaming on Friday, I was on track at that point to actually make 200% on the account for the year, should I keep maintaining performance. So I was actually double my target of 100%. And Friday was a great day. Friday was a great day because, again, we made, I think it was about 1.6% on Friday. But if we are entering a week or a period of low volatility, there's still going to be chances to win, but there's going to be more chances to lose. And that's where I've got to be adaptable and cautious. So we've got another minute and a half left of the current 15-minute candle, and then we actually get our first hourly candle. Now, if I was oh, damn it, this is such an annoying platform. If I was a longer term trader, a swing trader, maybe a trader that I'm going to look to hold it throughout the day, you are seeing a shitload of support down here at 24,000. So you could do something what's called dip buying, where you want the market to dip back into this area of support, buy down here, stop below the support. I then just look to ride some sort of move back up to these prior highs, or not even maybe up here, just up to the highs of the morning, and that's something you could do. It's not something I'm gonna do. It's something you could do. So we'll see if anything happens at 9 o'clock. We'll see. We'll wait one more 15-minute candle. If we still haven't looked like we're gonna break out at 9:15, then I'll be finished. And even if we wanted to trade mean reversion this morning, we're not even getting a chance for that because we're not actually moving into any sort of extension. We're not even coming up here or down here. So there is truly nothing available this morning. Truly, absolutely. Yeah. So this to me, this is the 15-minute candle that if something's going to happen, it's got to happen here because the previous 15-minute candle we tested down here. So if we come back down here again and break lower, there's definitely going to be something to watch for. Or we want to see a final test of this level here and then a move up. But it's going to be a bit of now or never. So we've just tested VWAP there, just touched VWAP. Now, if there was any sort of momentum in this market, you would expect the market to push lower now. But as you can see, it's not going anywhere. It's just that station. So we've had another. I'm going to get rid of this. Another test of VWAP. So another thing I want to talk about quickly is something called fractal shifts, which is basically where you take a time period where the market's got some form of directional movement. You could look at hours, days, seconds. Um, if you just take this high here to this low here, clearly directional. No big green candles there. Um, if you were going to trade this short, the time you want to get in is when you see a move up and then selling, and that's a way of making money, even on these tiny little movements here. Now, the 1-minute chart for this time period is too small. You'd need a 10-second chart. You'd see it clear on a 10-second chart, but I don't have that on here. But you can draw a straight line from the top to the bottom, but actually what happens is you have a move down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and every time the market moves up, you could short. And how much it needs to move up to get short, you can just have a percentage of the previous move. So this low to this high, you're now looking for a change of trend, and you could say every time we move up 25% of this previous low to high, we look for a short. And that's the sort of technique where you'd get a very high frequency of trades, and it may not have a particularly amazing win rate. So it may only have like a 55, 60% win rate. But a 55, 60% win rate where you're making 30 trades a day can be incredibly profitable. But it's also bloody exhausting. And I've watched traders do that. Um, and it's very impressive, but it is bloody exhausting. And I think it's really the sort of method that requires years and years and years of experience and stamina building to be able to do it. So 7 minutes into the hour and still nothing. Absolutely nothing. So here's the hourly candle. Oh man, come on. Let me just show you. Oh, I'm just going to change screens again. Hang on. It's on the left-hand side. Now you'll see the hourly, and you'll see that this first hour is a doji, meaning nobody, complete indecision. Now the reason I wanted to wait until 9 o'clock is because maybe this candle will make a decision. Currently, we're trying to push high. Right, so this current move up, this is the last hurrah of the morning. If we make a real strong move, I'll look to either short it or go long, depending on what the price action does. I would like to see a breakout towards new highs, and then I'd like to see either it retest and continue higher or fail, and then we look for an opportunity to go short. Currently, we're still within the overnight range. The market needs to come up here. And then up here, the market will make a choice. But if we don't get up there, then I'm quite happy to call it in the morning. So we're at the high here of the previous 15-minute. So there's no surprise that we're seeing a little bit of resistance. But the market is certainly trying to hold. You can see there's a real battle going on here within this 1 minute candle. And it's a battle that's been won by the buyers. That was a very mini battle that's been won by the buyers. Now we've made a prior bar high for the first time in a while because it's been prior bar low, prior bar low. So for the first time since 8:15, we've actually made a high. This could be a short there. It could be where you should, and we could have just, we could have taken that. Could have taken that. Yeah, well, there you go. So I think you can see where the this concept of prior bar high and prior bar low come into action there. So if you had a sell order here, right at the prior bar high, boom, that's exactly where the price moved to before, as you saw, a very aggressive move down. And that aggressive move is purely caused by the fact that there would have been either a lot of orders there or one or two massive orders. But there is clearly some participants in the market this morning that are quite happy with the market being in a range. Now that trade there, that prior bar high trade, is not currently part of my playbook. It's not currently something I actually do. It's just something I'm aware of. Because the problem is, yes, that worked in that instant, but it could have also exploded up, and I'm not confident enough in the market this morning to make that bet. However, when you look back on it, would have been nice this morning. Would have been nice. Once again, we're back down, testing this closing price from yesterday. There's definitely been some volatility come into the market after 9 o'clock. There's definitely some more participants entering, but it's not yet resulted in any significant breakout in price. So again, we're now coming back up, and we're coming back up quicker and stronger than we were. This is it's interesting to me this now because we've had a very clear prior bar high sell-off, but then the market's recovered just as quick as we sold. It does feel like the market's starting to build a little bit of momentum. It could just be wishful thinking. I've got to be careful. But there is, without a doubt, some momentum building. But again, it could not, it might not be until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock that we actually get that breakout. And I've got too much to do in my day as a tennis coach to sit here, sit here, sit here. But if we did sit here long enough today, we would get that breakout. You would get that trade, and you would get that opportunity to make money and lose money. I am going to stay live for the moment, but I am going to start getting on with some other work, some non-trading related stuff. Because I've got a lot to do today. I'm only going to stay live just in case something happens in the next 10, 15 minutes, in which case I'll probably just end up editing this live stream down and just keeping the interesting stuff. Okay. Okay. We have got a little bit of a. I am doing some other work now, but we have got some what I would describe as accumulation occurring up here for what looks like the first time. It's the first time this morning where we've actually held VWAP and I've actually started to chill out up here a little bit rather than just immediately selling back. Because if you look at this, we can't immediately sell off. Can't immediately sell off. This is starting to look like a breakout. Oh, there it is. We called it. Called it. It's almost like I've done this before. Almost like I've done this before. Right, this is what we were waiting for. This is what we were waiting for. So I've decided I'm not trading mean reversion unless it becomes just painful, too obvious, too good of an opportunity not to take. Really what I want is a breakout lot. That's what I want. That's what I'm good at. The idea here now is that we're gonna come up and we're gonna find some highs. That's the idea. We've cleared out the lows, tested, we've built shitloads of support, and now we're gonna break out for the morning. Um, that's the idea, that's the theory, whether that happens or not. But now we are officially in territory where it would be a good idea to make a trade, as long as it ticks all our boxes. You know. So we've closed this 5-minute candle. We've closed at the highs of the morning. Now we've already done that this morning, and we sold straight back off. So we're not going to get too excited, but we're interested. So what we want here is either a breakout, a retest, and then go long, or we want to fall back into the range, try to get back out, and then fail. We're looking for a retest, but the retest could be long, and it could also be short. I'm actually just going to mark this, so I'm going to have to keep scrolling back and forth. Oh man, finally, something's happening. Even if it's a failed breakout, we've actually finally moved to an area of interest. Finally found an area of interest. Okay. Worth also bearing in mind this volume profile as well. Actually gonna leave that open. Okay, so we're making highs again after retesting. Oh man, okay. I'm just it's just this would be a great long now if we didn't have this high here. It's just because we've got this high here. It just makes me nervous because we are still technically trading within the range of the morning. It's no longer the overnight range. We are trading within the range of the session. And I've done so well not doing anything stupid today. I do not want to get an hour and a half in and finally be like, fuck it, and then lose my money. Hope that makes sense. We've actually got another strategy, another one of Tom's strategies coming up. Hang on, I'll talk about that later. Okay, high of the day. We're at a new high. This is where we want to see what the hell happens. It's been some. This could go parabolic. Now, that's the thing. Once it's broken, which it has, then it's a case of well, sky's the freaking limit. Again, how many times can you bang your head against the wall until one of you comes out on top? That's really the theory behind how the market works to a pretty great extent. You just really want to test. It's tricky because there's multiple levels of retest potentially. You've got the high of the day, you've got a retest of the overnight range, you've got a retest of all different levels, which makes this a little bit harder because the entry idea could be valid. You might just pick the wrong level for it. The 15-minute bar is closing now, and we're closing at the highs. We're closing incredibly bullish, incredibly bullish, incredibly bullish. I'd love to see a deeper retracement. I'd love to see it. Don't know if we're going to get it, but I need to not FOMO. Desperately need to not FOMO into a trade this morning after all the patience that I've displayed. That would just be freaking heartbreaking. Hmm. Don't rush. The things I've got to remind myself is if the setup is there, if the setup is truly there and it's truly my strategy, it'll be obvious. It'll be goddamn obvious. It won't be a sneak attack. It'll be freaking slap you in the face. Obvious. Okay. I'm long. I am long the market. I'm long the market. I am long. This is a valid entry. If it doesn't work, I know why it won't work. I know why it wouldn't. I can't show you on the screen that I've currently got open, but I will show you afterwards, win or lose. But well, I'm in it now, so I'm only risking half size. By the way, I'm only having to risk 10 points, which is this is why I'm willing to take this trade, despite there being a slight potential resistance. I can show you actually. Um, this here, this little high, this little bugger of a high. I'm really hoping that we hold above um, this little bugger. You can see that we are currently fighting to stay above it. I believe we will, hence why I'm long. But if the market does fall, that is why. Okay, right, we are looking quite good. Now, this is the sort of trade where who the heck knows where we're going? Who the heck knows? Okay, I'm going to protect myself. Stop loss to break even. I'll be taking half profit at 24,100. If we get stopped out at break even, there's no reason we can't reload. By the way, there is no reason we can't reload on another retest. And we're going to get stopped. If we get stopped out, it's not the end of the world, because it just means there's going to be a deeper retracement. And a deeper retracement is just an invite to get a better entry, essentially. Right. So I'm really not too upset. So we've been stopped out for nothing, because we just got this big gap here, man. I just want to see. I want to just see a retest. I mean, it could now move higher, and this it's just the nature of the game. It's just the nature of the game. We can't cry about it. Um, cannot start crying about it. But in my head, I'd like a retracement down here. We might not get it, and that might just be how it is, and we just got to accept that. And it's starting to look that way now. But that's the game. This is a valid setup, but it is by no means a perfect setup. Oh, well, there we go. There we go, I guess. Okay, I'm not going to chase the market. If the market wants to run away, then we just got to let it. Oh, man. Man, oh, man, oh, man. Yeah, that's just how it is. It's just how it is. Looks like we're going to miss. This looks like we're going to miss out on a good trade here. But that's fine. That's fine. But you see how there's no retest. There's no true retest here. You know what I mean? That's the problem. It's And that's why I moved stop loss to break even early, because there's no real protection level, so it means I'm not confident about my stop loss placement. I'm not confident that there isn't gonna be a big retracement. And my hope now is that the big retracement just hasn't happened yet, and it will happen. That's the hope, is that we'll get a big retracement. We'll come back down to test some of these interesting key levels, and then we can trade. But we've got 20 minutes. We've got 20 more minutes because we don't trade. Oh, we don't trade after 10 o'clock. Just gonna get some water. Oh, so my entry, the reason I entered where I entered was because I saw this little prior bar low here as a retest, because it happened right at the high of the morning. But this is a very weak, minimal retest. What I really want to see is some proper red. I want to see some real red. I want to see it really extend and then come down. So it's very possible that we are going to get that, but we just haven't yet. It's very, very possible that we're going to get a retest. We're still in that initial breakout phase. But it's also possible that we end up just being in an incredibly tight channel and we never get the retest. But that's how it is. Okay, so we are starting to consolidate, but not really. Not really. Okay, okay. So we're not just looking here at okay, well that's good. That's good. I'm pleased because that hasn't, I'm glad that the market is. This is what I was expecting it to do. This is what I was expecting it to do. Now the hope here is that we can come back down to the high of the day and something and show some strength, and then we can trade along. We still have some way to go, don't we? It's also possible that that's just the high. That's it. That's as high as we're going to get today. I still feel like the long is on. This isn't really a retest of anything yet, though. Okay. Well, this is what I was going to talk about. Brunch break. So this is looking at the hang on, I've forgotten now. Seventh 15-minute bar as being a breakout bar. And this worked. This was my best strategy during the summer. So during the summer, when I actually started to become slightly profitable, this was my best, absolute, without doubt, best strategy. And they're the signals here that have just come up, which you don't actually need, but I'm glad it reminded me. Okay. Okay, so we are getting a nice, strong green candle right there. I'm long. Damn it, that was a terrible fill. Jesus Christ. That was an awful fill. I was trying to get long here. My God. We just went long. Oh, man. We went long just before the explosion. That is unlucky. That is unlucky. So we would be break even now. Oh, man, that is annoying. Oh, that is some bad luck right there. Okay. It is what it is. Oh, no, no. Okay. This could end up being a loser. It's only going to be a small loss. It's only going to be a small loss. Okay. Once this trade has stopped me out, I'll explain why I made that trade. Perhaps why I shouldn't have made that trade. Wow. Okay. Well, there's something going on right now um, that I'm not privy to because there is a shitload of volume that's coming out of absolute nowhere. Absolutely, there is a lot going on. I'm just going to let this play out, and then I'm going to talk about it um, because this happens sometimes. This happens sometimes, and it's the sort of thing to not really, well, not overreact to. Okay, so what's going on here is I picked a level which was actually here. That's a terrible fill. I wanted to get long here. Um, Basically being a breakout retest, a retest of where we initially retested and went long. And I wanted to get long where I had originally gone long, but just now with much better protection for my stop loss. Um, but there is suddenly, as you can see in the price action, a shitload of activity and transactions occurring out of nowhere. Um, so there's obviously a lot of big orders that are just coming into the market exactly when I wanted to trade, which is clearly affecting the price action quite dramatically. Um, so I've got two choices. I can either cut my loss here for basically nothing, or I hold um, in the hopes that it goes in my direction. We had a similar discussion on Friday where I entered a trade and nothing was happening. It was just going sideways. Nothing great was occurring. And I was like, I could just cut my losses here. We ended up making money. That was our great trade of the morning, whatever that was, £170 or something like that. So had I had the cut my losses attitude on Friday, we would have cut the loss just before we made a load of money. Now this morning we have the same dilemma. If I could close right now for £32 loss, which is, in the grand scheme of my account, nothing. Or I could hold in the prospect of potentially making money, but also risking losing about £90. Um, for the sake of me being consistent with my decision making, I'm going to hold. Um, but also, if I'm being completely honest, I expect this trade to lose. I expect it to lose. And I expect it to lose in a matter of seconds, actually. I expect to be stopped out within this candle here. There it is. Any second now. So we got stopped out. So that's a small loss. Um, a small loss. And there is still potentially a great trade on here. Because we've just hit a prior bar low. We have just hit a prior bar low. And I am quite happy here to reload this trade should we get a strong green close here. After this, I'll do a better breakdown of exactly what's going on because it's quite hard to explain it in the moment. So I am now very much tempted to be a buyer. We're not buying yet. Okay, I'm long. I'm long, stop loss down here. Now I've gone long because this now feels like our true retest. Now, this could also be a loser, but my first loss was only a half loss, and this is also only half risk. So I can lose both of these trades and only actually take one full loss, which is still within my risk management rules. And I'm very, I like this trade. I like this entry. So if this loses, I'm more than comfortable taking the loss because this is the exact sort of entry that I'm looking for. Um, and I've got the opportunity to enter this trade because um, I only took a small loss in the first trade. Again, this could lose, but I've been taking this trade for the last whatever it's been now, 7 weeks or so, and this trade has been a good trade. So we will wait and find out what happens. But this is where it becomes much more me against my own mind than it does me against the market, because the market is telling me to be long, but it's probabilities, and there's a chance I lose again. So I think if you're watching this, you're probably starting to see why trading is so difficult, because what on paper is obvious is affected by an absolute ton of psychological variables and factors. So we'll just see what happens. But this is without a doubt, win or lose, my last trade of the morning, my last trade of the day, because we are coming up on 10 a.m. I mean, I like this price action. I like this price action. We made a prior bar low on a 15-minute chart right here. We bought up. We've come down to retest this consolidation, and now we've back up again. So I like the price action. Does that mean we're going to make money? Nope. That's the nature of probability. But I like what I'm seeing. As soon as we make a higher high here, my stop loss can come up. By higher high, I mean actually closing. Closing is a higher high. Okay. I'm looking for a continuation. I think this is a good trade. I think this is a good trade. I could now cut my losses here. So I could close now and be break even for the morning. But that is a weak mindset, and that is not the mindset of someone that's going to be a really successful trader. So I'm going to hold, understanding it could go against me. But there we go. Right, I'm going to close half at 24,100. Man, this freaking job. This could move all the way back again. Oh man. This is both the fun and the challenge and all the above. Okay. It would be insane not to put stop loss at break even. As much as I want to let this go, it would be insane because I literally got to about a 1.5 R. It would be insane. So I'm going to let my risk management rules override what I want to do. I want to leave my stop loss below the low because I am extremely bullish. And I'm also trying, well, no, I'm not trying, I am sticking to my rules. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen now. No idea what's going to happen now. But I could close and take all the pain away, all the pain, because I'd finish break even for the morning, like nothing's happened. But I don't want to be the trader that shies away from a little bit of pain. Because ultimately, if I get stopped out for break even today, it will be annoying. I'll end on a loss. But all the people that I'm learning from and watching would say, well done. Every single one of them would say, well done. You know, Tom, Fabio, all of them, they would say, good job for holding. We are making higher highs. Okay, I have closed half the position as planned, and now I'm going to see if it wants to move higher. Oh, okay. So let's look at our transactions for the morning. We took a £93 loss, and now we've just closed half for 56. But now we are looking to see if we can continue higher. That's our 15-minute candle close right there, by the way. 15-minute candle close right at the high, literally right here at the high. So the chances of this not continuing are pretty low. Now it could come and stop us out before that, which would be kind of unlucky. Um, but I mean, it is what it is. Our net loss today so far is like £36. It's nothing. So I see this now as a free money trade. This is a free hit. Trying, aren't we? We're trying. I respect the market for trying. Wow, this is probably going to be the longest stream that we have all year. There's not going to be many mornings where I hold trades into 10 o'clock. All of this for what is essentially going to be a break-even morning. It might be slightly better than that. Okay, looks like we're about to be finished. I'm closing another half. Oh man, that trade there, that last losing trade. Frustrating trade, that one. Frustrating trade, that one. literally stopped us out by how much? I mean, 1 point. I mean, it literally tapped our stop loss. Literally tapped our stop loss. If it wasn't for that, it'd been a great morning. Would have been a great morning, you know. What can you do? What can you do? But our decision making this morning has been very solid. Very solid. If we keep our decision making like this throughout the week, we're going to make money. Almost certainly. It's never certain, but goddamn solid chance. And that's us out. Okay. So where are we? That is a net loss of about £9, I believe. Net loss of about £9. Let me just switch screens. Boom. Yeah, that was a shame, man, because we entered. I mean, we got unlucky on the fill in that first trade because it just jumped as I pressed buy. Got really unlucky on the fill, and then got stopped out by literally 1 or 2 points before it moved exactly where I was expecting it to move. But at least we were brave enough, confident enough in our system to re-enter, and ended up practically at break even for the morning. Right? I think that's commendable. And also have to bear in mind all of these potential traps that we have this morning, all those potential losses that we avoided. I think break even is a pretty good final result. Where are we going to go from here? Well, my expectation would be a deeper retracement down to the top of the overnight range, maybe down to VWAP, and then there could be more opportunity. But I think unless the market does something extremely exciting right now, I'm just going to call it there. I mean, really not many points to be made though this morning. The ranges are very, very small. Very, very, very small. I could have traded bigger size. Really. I mean, I was trading my 8 contracts, but really with the size of my stop losses, I could have traded more. Thing is, I don't actually have much more margin, from trading on leverage. So I actually don't have much more. I'm almost maxed out on my trading size for the account size that I have. I don't know exactly how many more contracts, but I don't think I'll be able to go much above 10, but that's worth considering for the future as well. We had brunch break, which is a prior bar low here. I mean, didn't quite actually make a prior bar low, so you may have just missed out. But that idea of buying a prior bar low of this 7th 15-minute bar was almost bloody perfect. Almost bloody perfect. Now this again is looking like a long. This really is looking like a long opportunity here, if ever I've seen one. Oh man. Okay, I'm long again. I'm long again. I'm long. Stop to break even. Um, hmm. Just looking at the 5 minute, and I'm seeing a prior bar high potentially. I'm closing. I'm closing. This could end up being a great trade of the morning, but I'm also seeing a prior bar high 5 minute, which you're not seeing right now. What would be good is to see a retest. Ah, looks like it is going to move higher. Again, I'll explain why I just closed my trade there in a moment. Quick look at 5 minute, and I'll show you why. We had a prior bar high that looked like we were going to sell off from, but now it looks like buyers may be taking control. But again, it's just difficult. Difficult morning. Really difficult morning. It's now looking like it's actually going to be a slightly profitable morning, but still basically break even. Okay, I'm going to finish there. I'm going to finish there. Okay, thank you for watching. This was a long one, a very long one, that ends up being a total profit of a whole £24. So basically break even, but no damage done. Some good risk management. Avoided some potential traps, multiple potential traps. Um, so yeah, overall, pretty okay.